Welcome to Headlines and History, live news reactions and your views. We're about to go live soon, so grab your spot and get ready for a sharp, balanced take on today's biggest news stories with a dash of historical insight. Stay tuned. Each week, we tackle the headlines that matter: politics, economics, global events with a balanced lens. We'll react live, tie today's stories to historical moments, and spotlight your views in the chat. From trade talks echoing the 1990s to crises recalling 2008, we're here to unpack it all. Your voice drives the show. Share your thoughts or historical parallels in the live chat, and we'll dive into the best ones. It's news, context, and community all in 1 hour. We're moments away from launching Headlines and History. Stick around for live reactions, historical nuggets, and your chance to chime in. Hit the notification bell, prep your comments, and let's make sense of the news together. See you soon.
Okay, I guess we're live. Welcome back. I don't know what's going on with the equipment. Everything was working great up until this morning. A few minutes to the live stream, I tested everything out yet again, and everything breaks. So maybe the show just has to go on. We just have to figure things out on the fly. We're going to look at the first video. The first video is focused on hi, Intergalactic. Thank you for coming back. The equipment broke, and I'm feeling a bit flustered right now, so bear with me. I'm going to go into the first story. Trump endorses Cuomo. In the previous iteration of the stream, I had a poll going, and the question is, should Donald Trump have endorsed Andrew Cuomo? And it's a huge question because we know that President Trump can't stand the Democrats. How bad can Mamdani be that President Trump would go ahead and endorse a Democrat? So we're going to dive into this story. I need to skip forward just by a little so that we don't. I value your time. Andrew is better. Okay, I'm going to bring up the comments. So Intergalactic Wrangler says Andrew is better than any communist, I guess, and many of us agree. I agree. Now we're going to have an opportunity to have a conversation around this. Let me play the video, and then we can look at one or two other points before we dive into it. So let's play.
Trump letting it be known who he is supporting for the mayoral.
Oops, sorry. I need to fix my audio. I apologize if you're watching for the first time today. I usually do a ton of prep, hours leading up to the live stream. Today, everything broke, literally everything. So something might not work at some point. I'll have to apologize and fix it, but let's listen to this.
Endorsing Andrew Cuomo and saying this about Mamdani. President Trump.
And let me know how the audio is. Just let me know how it's going. So
Zoran Mamdani wins the election for mayor of New York City. It is highly unlikely that I will be contributing federal funds other than the very minimum as required to my beloved first home, because of the fact that as a communist, this once great city has zero chance of success or even survival. It can only get worse with a communist at the helm, and I don't want to send, as president, good money after bad. It is my obligation to run the nation, and it is my strong conviction that New York City will be a complete and total economic and social disaster should Mamdani win. His principles have been tested for over 1,000 years, and never once have they been successful. I would much rather see a Democrat who has had a record of success win than a communist with no experience and a record of complete and total failure. He was nothing as an assemblyman, ranked at the bottom of the class, and as mayor of potentially, again, the greatest city in the world, he has no chance to bring it back to its former glory. We must also remember this: a vote for Curtis Sliwa, who looks much better without the beret, is a vote for Mamdani. Whether you personally like Andrew Cuomo or not, you really have no choice. You must vote for him and hope he does a fantastic job. He is capable of it. Mamdani is not. So that was President Trump putting that out on Truth Social just a little bit ago. And as I mentioned there before, key races are going to be up for grabs in Virginia, New Jersey.
All right, so
and really
that's it for that. So President Trump was very clear on why he would rather endorse Andrew Cuomo. It's not, you see, I like the idea that this is not about Democrat or Republican. It's essentially about what is good for the American people. Maybe we can talk about the morality of voting, because there are some people that see this as a moral issue. It's a huge moral issue for them when you're asked to vote for a Republican, for a Democrat when you're a Republican. But when you're looking into a city like New York, and New York essentially is a Democrat stronghold, if you have two candidates and one of them is essentially bad for the American people or for the citizens of New York, you have to point that out to say, this is a bad choice. I guess you guys should vote the other guy. Curtis Sliwa, I've seen a lot of people say that they would prefer him because they have big issues with what Andrew Cuomo did during the pandemic, and how people were not allowed to see their loved ones, and then that they moved elderly people in with COVID victims and so on, and that caused plenty of deaths to take place in a lot of elder homes. There's a lot of conversation to be had about that. However, when someone comes in and tells you that they want to turn your city into a communist stronghold, it should raise a lot of alarms. And honestly, we're going to play something from the UK. We're going to play something from the UK at some point during this live stream, because the point is, would you rather have New York eventually start looking like London, start having the sort of crimes that you see in the United Kingdom? We're going to maybe get to that. Now, we have conversations going on in the chat. So please, let's know your thoughts in the chat. Now, President Trump said something, and already mainstream media is twisting it. He said that it is highly unlikely that I will be contributing federal funds other than the very minimum as required, beloved first home. And already mainstream media is twisting that statement to mean that President Trump will not give New York any federal funds. I've already seen stories and videos like that on, in my feed, and already the live stream has gone sideways, so we can't start looking for all those accounts right now. The dishonesty that we already see in the media, it's upsetting when you read what President Trump said, and then the mainstream media says something completely different. They are claiming that President Trump will withhold federal funds from New York. That's what they are saying now. And Zoran Mamdani is already making the rounds saying that President Trump doesn't have the right to withhold federal funds. He did not say he was going to withhold federal funds. He said he would give New York the required minimum that every city in the country needs from the federal government. Anything other than that, for example, whenever you see a communist society, always needs an infusion of funds. They need the money to be co-opted from someone else. That's why they go after the rich. They take over rich businesses and then they co-opt it to the state because they can't create wealth. They can't create wealth. They look for someone that has it to take from that person to give it to the masses. That's the way communist countries run. And communist countries also have a history of destroying industry. When private ownership is taken away and the government runs everything, industry is destroyed. So Mamdani's plan is, when we run out of funds in the city, we're going to go to the federal government and demand that they give us money to give the people free healthcare, free bus rides, free housing, all on the taxpayer's dime. That is what communism is. So President Trump's endorsement of the communist, the communist candidate of the Democrat Party, Zoran Mamdani, is common sense, if I may say so myself. Now, let me know your thoughts in the chat. We're going to be discussing, those thoughts. Now, I did ask the question, is Mamdani that bad? And we're going to hear from several people. Okay, we're going to hear from several people. All right, now keep the chat coming. I'm going to play several videos to show how bad Mamdani can be for New York, and then we can have a conversation around it. This is not me pointing fingers because I don't like a guy. The guy is suggesting or proposing ideas that don't work. They don't work. So we call out the ideas. On this channel, we do our best not to go after individuals. We talk about ideas. And if the idea is a bad one, we call it out and stand our ground to say this is a bad idea. Right. So let's watch this account. I'm seeing your chat. I see your chat. We're going to respond to the chat shortly. So let's play this video and then we'll respond to the chat.
What do you think, Kevin? Is the money moving right now because the guys who have inside knowledge think there's a chance that Mamdani could be beaten?
All right, so quick background. Kevin O'Leary is offering his wisdom on this whole conversation. And let's hear what he has to say.
Well, I would love Jackie to be right, but I'm preparing for reality. He will be the mayor. And I just want to point something out, which I think is fair. You look at 60 years of mayor campaigns in New York City, the strategy's always been the same. Money for nothing, chicks for free. Everything's free. You want free food, you got it. You want a free ride on a bus, you got it. You want free rent, you got it. Just elect me as mayor and everything's free. And then when you get in, because you got to say whatever you got to say, and this includes both red and blue over the decades, you get in as mayor and you say, oh, the state legislature, these guys are not on board with me, and all the free stuff I was going to give you, it's not me, it's upstate. And so you do have a check and balance here. You've got a really interesting situation. Now, having said that, the reason he won, or will win, he drove the best social media campaign I have ever seen. Every one of his posts are always in the top quartile engagement on every single platform. They're actually edited to fit the platform for the algo of the day. Somebody's doing a hell of a good job there. He's a great orator. You may not like the message, but free chicks, free money is a great message. And it always
Free
works,
chicks.
and he will be mayor. Then he's going to have to come to people like me and say, hey, lend me $30 million for low-end housing. I want you to give me the debt portion, the equity portion of that building. And I'm going to say,
What are you going to say?
I say, I can't, because nobody will fund that because you have rent control on a pre-construction building.
Yep.
Have you thought that through on policy yet? And so maybe once he's in, he'll say, oh, the money guys won't give me any money to do anything, and the state legislature is really, really hurting me. I got to modify.
What do you think?
That is the best case scenario. What Kevin O'Leary is describing is the best case scenario in this entire equation, that Zoran will go into office and then tell the voters who voted him in that it's the fault of these money people. They don't want to give us the money, and we can't force them to give us the money, so blame them. That's the best case scenario. The worst case scenario is it's going to eventually radicalize the voters, and voters will increasingly demand more legislation to remove the power of businesses to control their own resources. Already, we're seeing that in the the campaign rallies that Zoran is having. Thousands of people happy to say that they will support these free promises that he's giving. Now, let's watch this video by Byron Donalds. He was being interviewed, and he says this about Zoran Mamdani. And of course, we have mainstream media running interference yet again for these people and trying to make the argument for them.
When you put in communist and yes, communist policies, that's what Zoran Mamdani is talking about.
He's not a communist. He's a Democratic socialist. He says he's a Democratic socialist.
So why is it that mainstream media, well, when I say mainstream media, I am referring to the left-leaning mainstream media, they feel obligated to argue on behalf of left-leaning voices or politicians? Byron Donalds is giving his opinion. If they asked him a question and he was saying, this person on this side is a communist, and then the question should have been, why do you think he's a communist? But what she's doing is she's running interference to say he's not a communist. He's a democratic socialist. The difference between the two is one reporter is asking for the facts and asking the person speaking to prove their point. The other reporter is running interference for the opposition. That's the difference. If the press would only do this, then everyone would be fine. But they continue to run interference for the Democrat Party. Please leave your comments in the chat. Right after this video, we're going to be talking about this and then some more.
I can't tell what the difference is.
Well, he can
explain what the difference is.
He can describe the differences for you. The socialism is not the same basis of communism in this country. You know that quite well.
The man wants to create government-run grocery stores. He wants free transportation, both of which are impossible to do. Because how is
a trigger word to try to undermine all of his policies. He's not a. He says he's a.
I don't need to undermine his policies. His policies undermine himself.
Well,
because they've never worked. Here's all I want him to do. Tell me where they've ever worked. They've never worked. He knows that. I knows that. But what he's trying to do is promise everybody something that they can't have. And the truth is there is no free lunch, just like there's no free bus. Because you know what happens when you have a free bus? There's nobody there to fix it or to drive it. He knows that. I know that. You know that. America does know it. And it's unfortunate that the city of New York, my former home city, is probably going to have to go through this.
Yeah, so these are common sense policies that everyone knows doesn't work. Now let's go into the chat. I can see some hobnobbing in the chat. Guys, this is a community. It's great to see you guys talking in the chat and saying hi to each other. It makes me happy. So keep doing that. Now, excuse me. Intergalactic Wrangler says, democratic capitalism and communism don't mix. It never works. Democracy and communism don't mix. They don't mix. For communism to work, the government has to change to a dictatorship. That's what essentially happens to every communist or socialist country out there. It switches over to becoming a dictatorship, an authoritarian regime. The very thing that they're accusing President Trump of being is the thing that the Democrats are rehearsing how to do or be in New York City. The lack of awareness is just astounding. Byron Donalds asked the CNN news anchor, "Can you tell me the difference between socialism and communism?" And she just blows past the question because you know what? They know that they are one and the same thing. They are one and the same thing. One is more intense than the other, but they are all the same thing, same ideas, same philosophy. One is more politically correct, the other is not. So let's just call out these things as they stand. Intergalactic Wrangler says, legacy media. Well, okay, I did make a statement about legacy media, and me referring to left-leaning media running interference, but it is true that mainstream media as a whole runs with a narrative. Whether it's Fox News or CNN, they run with a narrative. And to be honest, it takes a huge amount of honesty and maturity to be able to say this, to call out both sides, to say, look, both sides paint a picture. They want their side to be the virtuous side, but the only side that we should all be on is the side that tells the truth. It's really as simple as that. Which side tells the truth? Legacy media, both sides stretch the truth and use contradictory terms and twist the meaning of things. All right, so do you agree with Intergalactic Wrangler's statement? Guys, jump into the chat and just let your voice be heard. But do you know what? I tend to agree with what he said because if you watch my coverage, even when I do cover a Fox News story, I do my best to stick with the facts of the story. Yesterday, I played a video of CNN doing a follow-up report on the attack or the threat that President Trump made to the Nigerian government because it came into my feed and they were spinning it one way. And then I played an opposing video of Fox News interviewing someone on the ground in Nigeria. And I was like, this is how it should be done. And I do hope that we can make our time to be able to do this during the live streams where we can look at both sides and then come up with the truth of the story and not allow ourselves get hypnotized by narratives. It's really easy to be hypnotized when someone gives you what you really want for a while. They tell you what you want to hear. And then suddenly you find yourself saying yes to everything that they tell you without doing your homework. So it's something for us to learn how to do. Now, we're going to move on to the next story. The next story is on the very interesting incident that took place during an episode of The View. The View was going on and on with the usual anti-Trump tirade that Whoopi Goldberg goes on. And then this happens.
The Trump family has made about $1.8 billion profited off of this government. And he said that Joe Biden didn't know who he was pardoning using an auto pen. How come he don't know who this guy is?
Because he used an auto pen. Let me meetings with the judge, the meetings that they're supposed to go to when they're listening to what the hell, what?
So Whoopi's saying something, of course, and they pass her this blue note.
I love when Sonny passes notes.
We don't know if Trump used an auto pen to part. It was a joke.
Yes. We don't know if Trump used an auto pen to part.
Come on.
But we do know that he didn't know who that crypto guy was.
Well, I'm sorry. You know, the hardest thing about this job now is no one understands nuance.
So if it's someone else speaking, they're lying. But if it is you speaking, it's nuance. It's called lying. It's called lying. And The View have done it for years. They've lied about so many things for years. And now that they have threats of being sued for lying, it's now nuance. I mean, can you see the hypocrisy there? It's insane. Intergalactic Wrangler says Whoopi should have just stayed an actress. Honestly, I liked her as an actress. She should have. You're right. She should have stayed an actress. Hollywood is in a very sad state right now because no one respects these stars anymore. In fact, there is something going around in entertainment spaces that Hollywood has no movie stars anymore. That in fact, the last movie star right now is Tom Cruise, because he's the only one who didn't get sucked into the Trump hate and the attacks on Trump during Trump's first term. He has refused to make any of his movies political. He has stayed above the fray. And many people believe that he is essentially the last movie star. It's crazy to watch. But it is true. You know, I did like Whoopi. I liked all her movies. You know, she's a good actress. But once she began to go down the political arena, it's really just, it was downhill from that point on.
When you hear a joke, when somebody's fooling around, when they're not saying something specific, especially on this show. I'm very specific when I'm pointing stuff out. When I'm making...
Really? So you're telling us that your show is a joke. Your show is essentially, everything you've been saying so far has been a joke.
Making jokes, when I'm making jokes. This is ridiculous.
No, we don't.
Anywho, the other thing that really upsets me about all of this.
This is just, it's insane. When you catch people on the left and some people on the right, when you catch people who are lying, that, it's like children. Sometimes my son, my eldest, is meant to be doing his homework. And then he's watching anime when he's meant to be doing his homework. And we have an app that lets us see what he does with his screen time. And then we call him in and say, you're supposed to be doing your homework. Why aren't you doing your homework? And then he starts with denial. And that's what the Democrat Party does. No, they want to act outraged. How could you say that I'm using my screen time to do anything but doing my homework? And then you show them the proof that they've been watching anime, and then the tone changes. Well, actually, that's what the Democrats are like. That's what they're like. They deny. When you present them with the facts, then they pivot and then they lie and tell you, well, actually. Well, in another bout of Democrat lies, Elon Musk is exposing some of the federal fraud that has been happening. And he was on Joe Rogan's show a few days ago. And here's what he had to say about the Democrats' federal funding scams that they've been running that was uncovered while he was working on the Doge project.
And New York and California would be bankrupt without the massive fraudulent federal payments that go to those states to pay for illegals, to create a massive financial incentive for illegals.
How would they be bankrupt because of that?
They wouldn't be able to balance their state budgets, and they can't issue currency like the Federal Reserve can.
And so their ability to balance budget is dependent upon illegals getting funding?
The scam level here is so staggering. So there are hundreds of billions of dollars of transfer payments from the federal government to the states. Those transfer payments, the states self-report what those transfer payment numbers should be. So California and New York and Illinois lie like crazy and say that these are all legitimate payments. Well, these days I think they're even admitting that they literally want hundreds of billions of dollars for illegals. But for a while they're trying to deny it. So you get these transfer payments for every government program you can possibly think of. And these are self-reported by the state, and at least historically, there was no enforcement of California, New York, Illinois, and other states when they would lie. There was no actual enforcement to say like, hey, you're lying. These payments are fraudulent. Now under the Trump administration, the Trump administration does not want to send hundreds of billions of dollars of fraudulent payments to the states. And the reason you have this standoff is because if the hundreds of billions of dollars to create a financial incentive to have this giant magnet to attract illegals from every part of Earth to these states, if that is turned off, the illegals will leave because they're no longer being paid to come to the United States and stay here.
Wow.
And then they will lose a lot of voters. The Democratic Party will lose a lot of voters.
And they would have a very difficult job if this is kicked out of reintroducing it into a new bill.
Yes.
Especially once things start normalizing.
Yes. So, like, in a nutshell, the Democratic Party wants to destroy democracy by importing voters. And the Republican Party disagrees with that.
And the ruse is that if you don't accept what they're doing, then you're a threat to democracy.
Yes.
As they try to destroy democracy.
Yeah.
By importing voters.
That is literally what they're doing.
People to only vote for them.
It is crazy. All right. I see the chats. Just keep it coming. It's crazy that these things are happening and everyone sees what's happening. And the Democrats keep saying that it isn't happening. It's crazy to watch. It's infuriating to watch it happen. But you know what, guys? We just have to keep calling out the hypocrisy of mainstream media, the Democrat Party, or any politician at all, Democrat or Republican. There are Republicans who are hypocrites and need to be called out. Okay, so this is happening. Every one of us knows it.
And overwhelming the system.
Yes. And by the way, it's a strategy that, if allowed to work, would work. And in fact, has worked. California is supermajority Democrat.
Yeah.
All right. So that is Elon talking about the scam that federal cities and states run in order to fund the lifestyle of illegal immigrants. The Democrats say that it's not happening. They shut down the government and claim that they're shutting down the government because American citizens are being deprived of healthcare by the Trump administration, which is, of course, not true. And it turns out that they want subsidies in order to fund their ability to buy votes by giving free healthcare and welfare to illegal immigrants. Now, here's an interview that came up during the weekend. And it will shock you that that this happened, okay? And you talk to your friends who are Democrats or progressives and say, why do blue cities not want a balanced budget, or they don't want oversight over how they use federal funds? And they're like, no, we do. We're for law and order. We're for things being done properly. But they ignore this interview.
Day one of USDA, February 13th, is we sent letters to every governor in America being very clear that no illegal aliens can use SNAP. 0, 0, 0. We asked every state for the first time in history, and this was in February, to send us their data and let us, with DOJ and a war room, actually start going through this data to better understand how this explosion of SNAP benefits happened under Joe Biden. We increased almost 40% on this program in just a couple of years.
No, so imagine that SNAP benefits, the expenses on SNAP benefits exploded over 40% under Joe Biden. All right. 1 second. Just 1 second. 1 second. So guys, most of us here are married. My wife calls me and I'm thinking, my wife is calling me. I better take the call. You know, happy wife, happy life. And she's calling just to check on me. She's calling just to check on me. And I'm like, okay. But I was live streaming, you know. And she's like, oh, sorry. And then she drops the call. I'm like, what's going on? I thought she was upset. And then I called back to say, anything important? She said, no, just checking on you. I'm like, okay. All right, guys. Sorry about that drop off. Yeah, so, all right. So I'm going to respond to the chats right after I play this video. I'm going to play this video through and then I'll respond to the chat. We'll relax and have a conversation in a bit. And I would like you to send your thoughts concerning the Elon interview with Joe Rogan and this interview where the massive fraud was exposed. Now, under Joe Biden, SNAP benefits ballooned 40%. And she tells us something that should upset everyone who's watching, including Democrats.
Under the Biden administration. Of course, we know they were trying to buy the election, but that's a conversation for another time. And since we have asked for that data, 29 states have complied. Of course, almost all the red states, a couple of couple blue states too. But in that data, and I haven't talked about this yet publicly, in that data we've studied about $100 billion in spend. We have found thousands and thousands of illegal use of the EBT card. We have been moving people off of SNAP. We've got almost 700,000 people, I think, we've moved off just since the president took office. We've arrested about 118 people. So this has been ongoing. But, Rachel, to your point, what this conversation has allowed is a national spotlight on a broken and corrupt program. We found one guy in 6 different states getting a benefit. We found about 5,000 people that are dead who are still getting benefits. Like, it is time to drastically reform this program so that we can make sure that those who are truly needy, truly vulnerable, are getting what they need, and the rest of the corruption goes away and we can serve the American taxpayer.
Yeah, so massive revelation. Why would these states, first of all, refuse to bring out the data to make sure that the rolls actually contain American citizens? Guys, I'm an immigrant, if you haven't been able to tell yet from my accent. It's highly beneficial for someone like me to say, why would you want to take immigrants off SNAP benefits? It's wrong. You're being racist. But that would be disingenuous and actually downright evil of me to say something like that. What they're trying to do, these benefits were designed for American citizens. The reason why immigrants flee their countries of origin to go to Europe and to North America is because their governments didn't take care of them like Europe and North America have taken care of their citizens. Now, these governments are now taking these benefits away from citizens and handing it to total strangers. And you know what most immigrants do with the resources that are given to them? They ship it off to their country of origin. Okay? It's one thing to have a job, earn a salary, make money, and help people who are still back wherever you come from. But to take benefits that belong to American citizens, convert it to money, and send it out of the country, that is wrong. All right. If you don't agree, let me know in the chat. Okay. So I did promise that we were going to go into the chat. So Intergalactic Wrangler says, Joe and Elon show was epic. I watched it all. So glad they talked about it and got the information out. Look, guys, hearing about these things and having the revelations that we've seen this year alone in the first 3 months of Trump's being in office, with Elon and Doge exposing USAID and all of the fraud that was going on, and the absolute meltdown that the Democrats had when these things were being exposed, should have opened the eyes of every single Democrat, well-meaning Democrat in the country. but maybe I have too much faith in people that when they see the truth, they would accept the truth and do the right thing. But instead, there were riots all over the country trying to burn down Elon's businesses for exposing waste, fraud, and abuse. There were hit pieces in media trying to discredit him and trying to make him look like he was incompetent, and so many other attacks. And the security attacks against, the security threats against his workers and himself for exposing fraud. It's unreal that we're living in this reality. It is crazy. Intergalactic Warangla, he's on fire today. Intergalactic Warangla, thank you so much for engaging. Hey guys, where is everyone else at? Where's everyone else at? Okay, I'm seeing that one person is doing most of the chatting. So let's have a conversation. So he says, people on Snap should have partial payments by Friday, from my understanding. Yes, partial payments. The Democrats claimed last week that the administration has access to months of backup funding for SNAP benefits. And it turned out that it was a lie, that they only have enough for about a week plus. So the Democrats lie, trying to make Trump and his administration look like evil Nazis, but the truth always comes out. The truth always wins out. All right. Now, let me know your thoughts. We're still having this conversation. Let me know your thoughts. Some of you are watching the delayed feed, I understand. So just keep your chats coming, and we will address your concerns. Now, let's watch this next story and give me your thoughts as the story, unfolds. All right, so let me give you the background, guys. We've just talked about immigrants. And there's this experiment happening in Europe and in North America where borders have been swung wide open, and a certain class of immigrants are getting into Western countries. And with them, along with them coming into Western countries, there's an increase in violence. We're going to watch a bit of this video. How far we go with this video is going to depend on the reactions that I see in the chat. If you guys are engaged with this video, we're going to go forward. But we're going to watch a little bit of it. If you want to see more, then we're going to watch a bit more. So here's the thing. Everything that we're talking about is about illegal immigration, not legal immigration. When illegal immigration is allowed to happen, when people aren't vetted and they are brought into your country, this is the kind of thing that tends to happen. We've talked about Sweden. We did that last week. And here's the UK. I have family living in the UK, and they're also uncomfortable about this entire situation. All right. So this is not it's a white supremacists that are complaining. It's not that. It is wrong. People who are in the country legally are complaining that the illegal immigrants are making immigrants look bad. And that's the thing. So let's just watch this, and then we'll give our reaction.
Not safe at all. I don't want to send her to school because there's so many attacks on the school.
4:30 p.m. Uxbridge, a scream, 3 stabbed, 1 fighting for life. Police tasered a 22-year-old Afghan national. Authorities confirmed he was granted asylum in 2022. Within an hour, Britain had seen enough. Footage lit up every screen. Blood on the pavement, chaos in daylight. By nightfall, protests erupted outside migrant hotels across 5 cities, from Kent to Southampton. They were funded by British taxpayers, and now they've turned the knife on Britain's own sons. £8.2 million a day, 51,000 housed in hotels. How many more warnings before Britain erupts? Stay with Brit Alert News, because what's coming next begins inside the Commons. Inside the House of Commons, tempers flared while the blood on Uxbridge's pavement was still wet.
Arrivals are up more than 50% when compared to the same period before the election.
Illegal arrivals up 52%. Hotel use up 47%. And yet less than 2% of those who cross illegally are ever removed. The Home Office calls it progress. Britons call it betrayal. And while Westminster rehearses its lines, the streets outside are already breaking. Labour calls it humanitarian management. Conservatives call it system strain.
So you have people attacking citizens, killing citizens, and the statistics show that most of these people are illegal immigrants. Why don't you just get rid of the illegal immigrants? Why is this so difficult to do? Why is there this mad rush to bring in people who don't believe the same way like your society does? Most of them don't speak the language. They don't have any real skills that they're bringing into the economy. And all some of them bring in is violence. We've seen it in the United States, and it's been happening in the UK for years. There's been the grooming gang scandal that broke a couple of months back. We didn't cover the story on this channel because I wasn't sure that the American audience would like to hear about something going on in a different country. But it is crazy that we're watching this happen. And when you look at the people in government, and that's why I froze this frame, there's lots of talking. There's lots of excuses. There's lots of political correctness going on while the regular citizens suffer. All right. So, and in the end, if this is allowed to continue, if the native, if I don't want to call them the natives, if the citizens of the country feel like the government has betrayed them, and that the government is no longer the government for the citizens, but rather a government that protects and runs cover for illegal immigrants, that stench is going to affect even the legal immigrants, because at that point, the citizens won't be able to tell the difference. Intergalactic Wrangler says they need the votes. They do, because common sense people don't agree with these policies. And of course, he's referring to the previous story on the SNAP benefits. But it also applies with the UK situation, because I've watched reports that have said that most of the communities now are majority Pakistani, majority Indian, and so on. The immigrants communities right now outnumber the actual native-born citizens of England or the UK. How was this allowed to happen? How was it allowed to happen? Is it a good thing for people who need to move to the Western countries in order to get a good life for themselves and for their families? It is a good thing. What isn't good is when these people move over to these countries and begin to wreak havoc on the local population. Yesterday, I said a few things. I wondered whether I should have said those things yesterday, but today I think it's good that I said them. And what I said was, this is literally jihad happening on the streets of Western countries. They've infiltrated the political system. I was going to do a report of Ilhan Omar today, but I decided to push it off to tomorrow. What do I think of Kemi? Let me see. What do I think of Kemi? Do you know what? I have a confession to make. I've been asked to research Kemi Badenoch for months now, and to be honest, I haven't had the time to do so. I had my 9 to 5 at the time, and even now I'm so busy juggling so many things that I saw this video earlier and I was like, I think I have to do a profile on Kemi. But since she's in the frame of the conservatives, I think she's a conservative. I think from what I haven't done any research on her. Correct me if I'm wrong, Canary King. Correct me if I'm wrong, that she is speaking up against the unfettered immigration that's happening. She's pushing back against the lax policies that is allowing a lot of this to happen. I think that's what she stands against. So let me know what her policies are. Maybe after this live stream, maybe this evening, I will do a Google search and then do some reading on her profile. Yeah, so Canary King says she's a conservative. Yeah, she's a conservative. So, you know, let me show you guys. Let me share a comment that was made on my feed. I don't know why this is making me feel sad. I'm feeling really sad. I don't know whether it's just that I'm sad that the live stream broke earlier or something, but I don't think that's it. I think this topic is something that needs to be, if you ask me, immigrants have to speak out against this insanity. So let's look at this comment that someone made on one of my videos. Now, the video that the comment was put on was this video: woke teacher fired after anti-Trump rant in class. And then this person, Christopher Williams 3298, posted this 21 hours ago, said, dude, you as a black man for Trump is like a cockroach for raid. Any person that has a decent cell in their body would hate Trump. How now being how racist and pro-Trump Utah is, it's probably not wise to do a rant and keep your job. With that said, she's on the right side of history for hating Trump. But here's the approach. And this is what I wanted to point out. As someone who is black, you're expected to believe a certain way. You're expected to push a certain narrative. And when people like me and Kemi stand up for the truth, people can't compute that it should actually be happening. And so now, if I was going to play the victim, I would say that this individual, Christopher, is comparing me to a cockroach. That's not what he's doing. He's using similitudes to push his points across. I wouldn't want to be disingenuous to say he is passing on subliminal racist commentary because I'm an immigrant black person. Canary King would take offense at me saying black Negro person or person of color supporting President Trump. But what I would say is look at the policies, look at the things that make sense, and that should inform whether you support a candidate or not. Not about hating the person, because his emphasis is about hating Trump. And that takes us back to the whole issue of, on immigration here with the UK. Why would Parliament not do something to protect its own people? All right.
For millions of tax.
Okay, so hold on. I'm going to let's see the news. All right. Kemi Canary King says she doesn't want to import problems into our country. You see, it takes an immigrant to know one. And we know the bad actors. We know the bad actors. We know I would say the evil people. All right. I'm sorry, I'm going to say this. Ilhan Omar is evil. I'm going to just say it. I know on this channel, we try not to demonize people. But Ilhan Omar has said enough to let you know, the Bible is what I live by. And Jesus said, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. The things that Ilhan has said, especially some of the comments she made recently about Charlie Kirk, has revealed that the woman is evil. So when you see someone say certain things and act a certain way, and you look at the constituents that she represents, go look at Dearborn, Michigan, and see what's going on to that beautiful American city. It will tell you everything you need to know about letting people, immigrants like Ilhan, run for office. So most immigrants know what this is about. We know the evil people that are coming up and that want to hijack the systems, the meritorious systems of the West, and twist it into something that it wasn't designed to be. Canary King. Now, if you've not noticed, we've slipped into our chat conversation. So let's know your thoughts in the chat. If you want me to keep going with the video, I can, but it's a 10-minute video, and essentially, I think I've picked up on the talking point, and we can have a conversation. Canary King says, first of all, you're an immigrant from a majority African country. You're not from a society that has a structure of white on one side, black on the other side, and gray in the middle. I would say yes and no. Yes, we're from a majority black country, but Canary King, when you're from a majority black country and you walk into a pitch, you're supposed to pitch for a project. And on one side, you have a contractor who is white. And on the other side, you have a contractor who is native-born Nigerian Negro. 9 times out of 10, the white person gets the job. 9 times out of 10. I'll tell you a story. One of my mentors had a project that he was running. He wanted to run for one of the big companies in the country. And he was going to pitch for the project. But already the people who were valuing the pitch were pushing back and saying that they were leaning away from his company because they claimed that he was charging too much for the job. A German boy who was still, I think he had just graduated high school and wanted some experience working for a multimedia company, writes him from Germany and says, I've seen the work you guys do on your website. Can I come and intern with you guys for a month? And he says, okay, come. He thought the guy was joking. The guy shows up from Germany and they pick him up from the airport. Right from the airport, he has this brainwave and says, okay, let's take this guy to the final meeting with this company because they wanted to basically negotiate the price into oblivion, and said, okay, we're going to take this white dude, take him to the meeting and see what they do. They took the white guy to the meeting, and whoever it was that was hell-bent on cutting the value of the project in half instantly approved the project once he saw a white person. I kid you not. Like, this happens in a majority black country. So if anyone is going to be upset about people's privilege and whiteness, it should be people from Nigeria, because we've seen it happen again and again. We have. I have. I could tell you stories. Okay. So yes, there is an element of me being from a majority black country and not exactly experiencing the nuances, but it doesn't mean that we haven't seen racism. And the most racist people against anyone is black people against black people. Yeah, but say what you will. I've experienced it. Okay, I've experienced it. So, moving on. Please let's know your comments in the chat. Second, Trump is actually a very good force overall. Okay. Second, Trump is actually a very good force for all. Okay, hold on. Okay, yeah. Second, Trump is actually a very good force for all of North America. Nothing wrong with you supporting positive change by Trump. Yeah, but there are a bunch of people who think that I'm a sellout for doing so. They can't exactly call me a sellout. They can allude to me being a cockroach loving raid. Oh, the comments were way off. Well, yeah, Crystal, his comments were way off. But, people who can't stand Trump extend their hatred for Trump to anyone who supports his policies. It's just going to happen. It's just going to happen. All right, so here we have someone in the chat, and I don't know if this is he's on the YouTube side. I'm looking on YouTube. I can't see. Hold on. I need to see which channel you're chatting from. I think you're chatting from the main channel. Are you chatting from the main channel? Okay, he's chatting from the backup channel. Manic1578 says, Trump loves sex predators. What's the proof? What's your proof? But did you know Biden pardoned a bunch of sex predators? How many sex predators has Trump pardoned? Okay. He continues. That's why he supported Cuomo. We just got through explaining that Mamdani is the lesser of two evils. That's why Trump is backing him. And he said so himself. We need to be honest about what we say or come with facts. If the person says, this is why I'm doing this thing, you can't get up and say, no, that's not why you're doing it. This is why you're doing it. Come with proof if you're going to contradict what someone clearly stated that is the reason why he is doing a thing. That's all I'll say about that. All right, not black, but an African country. Yep, an African country, but there are white people who are African. So it's a bit difficult to say African when you're referring to somebody of color in Africa. When you have the Afrikaners, you have other people who aren't brown or Negro. We also have the Algerians. We have the Moroccans. We have the Libyans. They aren't Black African. Okay. Your story has absolutely nothing to do with black. Canary King disagrees that my story has nothing. No, it does. Dude, it does. It does. There are other stories that I could tell. It's not just one incident. Okay? It's not just one incident. Now, I know that there have been injustices by predominantly black-led governments against black populations. There was the Jim Crow situation. There was slavery in the early days of the United States. There are all of these things that have happened and have affected black populations. There was colonialism in my country. Let me tell you another story. Okay, so my dad worked for many years as a valuable member of a British-owned company called John Holt. And, sorry about that. And for years, he had been trained up. He was skilled. He knew what he was doing. And he said, when he was telling me this story, he said, look, that there was one time when a young English guy was transferred to his office. This is someone who didn't know squat. He was essentially an entry-level individual, didn't know anything about the business. And my dad was told to train him up on how to run the branch. This person came in entry-level. He earned more than my dad did. My dad had to train him, and basically my dad was essentially training his boss. And when he was done training him, of course, he was already earning more than he was. Simply, why was he earning more than my dad if he needed my dad to train him? My dad had gone to multiple training courses in Germany via, the company sponsored those training courses. And yet, in the end, when somebody was transferred from the UK to Nigeria, he was automatically my dad's boss, but required my dad to train him. Like the point I'm trying to make is this: not that these injustices did not happen. The point is, the premise is, you said, I come from a predominantly black or predominantly African, as Canadian would say, country, and that it would be difficult to kind of understand the dynamics. That's what I picked up from that statement. And I told the story to say, being from a predominantly black country doesn't mean that we didn't see these things happen. All right. This is not about claiming victimhood. It's just to point out that these things do happen in predominantly black countries like Nigeria. That's all I'm pointing out. I'm not saying that there is no merit to anyone else's experience. I need you to just kind of calm down and listen to what I'm saying. Okay, how many of the banks and biggest corporations in your home country have non-African CEOs? Originally, all of them. Then eventually, they all left the country when we were transferring ownership to Africans. Then we had the Civil War, and they all left. Now, all of the banks are being run by Nigerians. Now, talk about banking. Do you know that companies like PayPal don't allow Nigerians to own merchant accounts? Companies like Stripe don't allow Nigerians to own merchant accounts. Why is that? Because the banking system is so, I would say it's badly run. It's badly run because the security that is required to connect with platforms like PayPal doesn't exist. It's a combination of the banking and the Nigerian security apparatus. If someone does a transaction on PayPal, there's no way of tracing them. The banks don't have a means of tracing that individual. Local police don't have the will to do the investigation to catch criminals. Like I told you in the other story that I told a couple of streams back, the equipment is there, the will to use the equipment is not there. So, yes, we have black African CEOs, but we can't transact seamlessly with the rest of the world. Why is that? Is it because we're black? No, it's because the entire country is poorly run. All right. So this is not a race thing. It's not a race thing. Most of the people who took over these companies and institutions were trained by British people or Europeans. But when you have a system that pushes back against accountability, this is what you get. Canary King has taken over from Intergalactic Wrangler. In contrast, look at the USA or Africa. South Africa is a black-white country. Nigeria is not. Nigeria is structured by tribe and region. Canary King is asking, so On Sunday, we had a flood of voices from Nigeria, and they were able to tell us our own story when it comes to the genocide of Christians happening in northern Nigeria. Maybe someday we would have Nigerians also weigh in on this conversation where we talk about actual tribalism and racism against your own people. All right. So it does happen. It's difficult to explain. Is it brainwashing where black people in Nigeria believe that white people are superior to their own people? Is it brainwashing? Or can you see it in the tribalistic nature of transactions in Nigeria? If it's tribalistic in nature, then it's easy to connect the dots. All right. Now, I haven't asked anyone here to subscribe, like, or share the video ever since I started because I was thrown off by the way the live stream started. But please, if you're watching right now or after the fact, please consider subscribing, liking, and sharing the video. Consider supporting the channel by leaving a super chat, super thank. Use the donation link in the chat or in the description of the video to support us, or join the membership. The membership gives you the ability to use the call-in feature. All right, we did a call-in on Saturday, and it was beautiful. So we're going to be promoting that, and hopefully I can figure out why my live stream has been acting out over the last couple of days. But please let us know that you want us to keep doing what we're doing by supporting us in these ways. Thank you so much. Canary King says I should slow down. Yeah, I'm slowing down. I'm actually speaking very slowly. All right. He's asking, keep an open mind. Slow down with these, your stories. It may make sense to you, but it's not on point. No, I've explained what I'm trying to do. All right. Yes, you can slide in a point. G is going on and on with stories, not facts. Look, okay, sorry. All right. Canary King. So I always say that Canary King and I have at it in the chat. And this is yet another day when we're having at it in the chat. Dude, I'm just going to say it. You don't have a clue what black is. All right. Let's read more comments by Canary King. There's a racial pyramid in some societies, white on top or black on the bottom. In such societies, you have a black neighborhood and a white neighborhood. Then you have a gray neighborhood or mixed or people in between. Nigerians don't have a black identity. Name one white city in Nigeria. That city was called Ikoyi and Victoria Island. And then there were some other white enclaves in Enugu, and there was another white enclave somewhere in Kano. I can't remember exactly where. And all of these were colonial. If you recall, I mentioned how during the war, most of these people left the country because of the war. These things existed in Nigeria. They did. In fact, let me find you an interview. I'm going to find you an interview just to let you know how horrible it got. Okay? Just give me a second. Who was... oh, geez. No, I'm talking about the colonial time. the colonial times. All right. I want to show you something. Let me see. I want to show you something. So, let's see. Okay, I'm going to play this video. And this is the quality is horrible. Okay. But I hope that I hope this makes sense. Okay. And I hope this is the right interview. I'm essentially doing this on the fly. I'm doing this on the fly. I hope this is the right interview. American. All right. So this was Tafawa Balewa. He was one of the
talks about.
All right. So this is Tafawa Balewa. Okay. This was in the 60s before the Civil War. And he talks about, I don't know if this covered that statement. He talks about the preferences that his people, he's a northerner. Nigeria had been independent for a few years, and he was expressing the hierarchy of who they would hire before they hired a certain person from a certain tribe. And I hope he covers it here, but let's just see if this video does cover it.
It's about killing your premier. Add on top of that the North's general hate of the East, and you can start to get the picture of the sort of tribal tension Nigeria was heading towards.
One thing I've noticed, Premier, while I've been here, is that Northerners seem to have, I might almost call it, obsession about the Igbos. Could you perhaps explain that to me?
Well, the Igbos are more or less the type of people whose desire is mainly to dominate everybody. If they go to a village, to a town, they want to monopolize everything in that area. If you put them in a labor camp as a laborer, within a year they will try to emerge as headman of that camp, and so on. Well, in the past, our people were not alive to their responsibilities, because you can see from our northernization policy that in 1952, when I came here, there weren't 10 northerners in our civil service here. Then I tried to have it northernized, and now all important posts are being held by northerners.
Is this policy of filling all key posts in the north solely with northerners and not with other Nigerians a temporary or permanent one?
In actual fact, what it is a northern...
All right, so listen to what he says here. I'm seeing Canarican's comments. I'm going to address them. See what he says here. So he says that his plan. Okay, well, I'll just let him talk.
In actual fact, what it is a northerner first. If you can't get a northerner, then we take an expatriate like yourself on contract.
Okay, so first of all, he gets a northerner. And if he can't get a northerner, instead of getting another Nigerian, he'll take a white guy.
If we can't, then we can employ another Nigerian, but on contract too. This is going to be permanent, I should say, as far as I can foresee, because it will be rather dangerous to see the number of boys that are now turning from all our learning institutions, coming out with having no work to do.
So this is DEI, guys. This is DEI. So whenever I come on stream and I'm like, this should not be allowed to happen, this is why. All right. So again, Canarican, look, guys, Canarican and I, we will disagree. Look, tomorrow, maybe we're going to have another epic disagreement, but we love each other and we support it. Look, it is good to push back. All right. So I'm going to get to the most recent comments. I need to cover the ones he's posted already. Ikoyi is mostly Africans, but not in the 60s. It was essentially a locale for the colonials. So people who lived in those times had that demarcation in their minds. White communities were this way, black communities, lived elsewhere. All right. No, today, Ikoyi is about 99% black right now. Most of, so you're right, but you're speaking of present day. All right. Now, Canary King says, I'm an expert on colonialism. It's doubtful you will share anything new for me on subject. Yes, but I need to, whenever I make these comments, I need to let you know, where I got the information from. So I'm just being very transparent and playing these things to you. So you're making my point around tribe, aren't you? Yes, I am. But there's a point you made. I'm not pushing back on the points you're making on tribalism. I'm pointing out. Okay, so maybe it's my fault that maybe I took a thread and I'm pulling on the wrong thread. I'm just trying hard to just answer. Do you know what, guys? I suspect that Canary King did this intentionally. He knew he was yanking my chain, and I went down the path he wanted me to go down. I think that's what's going on. All right. I've watched that ridiculous documentary, and the guy that made it is ill-informed. Well, whatever he's saying, the truth is, I lived in Nigeria. I could see the correlations of that documentary, but the documentary as a whole is not what we're addressing. We're addressing the statements being made by the man himself, Tafawa Balewa. This guy was one of the founding fathers of Nigeria. And this is how he felt about hiring people from other tribes. That's just what I wanted to point out. All right. You've made my point that Nigeria is a tribal society, not a color one. Yes, and I have said repeatedly, that tribalism is another variation of racism, and it happens like crazy in Nigeria. If they are not going to be tribalistic against someone from another tribe, all right, they will be tribal when someone from the European race shows up. They'll be like, okay, we're going to pick the European guy above every other Nigerian. That's what I'm trying to say. And these are experiences that I've had. I'm making your point where, do you know what? Most times than not, Canary King and I are on the same page. We're just approaching the same issue from different points of view, but we're on the same page. Intergalactic Wrangler, DEI, and also My Country Last. Yes. That is the thing that has destroyed Nigeria. And I don't want it to destroy Europe and North America, especially the United States. I don't want that happening in the United States. And you know what? He says nothing about, that's Tafawa Balewa. Okay, Balewa. That's Tafawa Balewa. What do you think his name was? That's Tafawa Balewa. Okay. Amadou Bello. Oh, I'm sorry. Amadou Bello. Shoot. Guys, Canary King, why did you have to pull down my drawers in front of the class? How many of you have had those funny dreams where you went to school and you stood up in front of the class and you found out that you were naked? Those odd dreams. I've had those funny dreams. All right. Well, thank you so much, Canary King, for correcting me. This was Amadou Bello. Thank you so much. Tafawa Balewa was the prime minister. No, the prime minister. Amadou Bello was the premier of northern Nigeria at the time. Nigeria had the same structure that Canada does have right now. We had provinces and we had premiers. Yeah. Until the Civil War, and then everything got flipped. Yes, his name was Amadou Bello. All right, so present day Nigeria is not black, it's tribal. I will cede ground to you on this, Canary King. I'm not going to. I'm not taking the bait. I'm not taking the bait. All right. Canary King corrected me, said that was Amadou Bello, and he's correct. He's correct. Canary King is the G. He knows his stuff. And whenever I go against Canary King, I better come prepared. So I always have, whenever he comes up with some opposition, the first question that crosses my mind is, are you sure you want to do this? Because he's always ready to go. All right. So there's a distinct black set of issues. Yeah, we can explore that. I told you I know and I've always said you know your stuff. Okay. Intergalactic Wrangler, just make sure you have your underwear on. Look, there was one time I was standing in front of a group of guys in college, and I was making a speech, and someone on the front row was pointing at my groin like, dude. It turns out that I stood up to make a speech, and my zipper was down in college. Yes. The weirdest things. All right, guys. Okay, so you guys have a few seconds to get your last licks in. Get your last licks in. The live stream, sadly, has come to an end. I would like to apologize profusely look, my tech has been acting up. I don't know whether it's my hardware or the software or, and the platform that I use that lets me display the chat messages on the screen. I don't think it works so well on Macintosh computers, and all my computers are Macintosh. I have 2 computers, and they're all Mac computers. So I may need to try doing the live streams on a high-end Windows computer. I don't have a Windows computer to use that on, a high-end Windows computer to use that on, and that means that I will have to buy one. So the donations and the memberships and everything else that you guys send my way eventually will help out to make that happen. But I am very grateful. Now, guys, I'm going to try one more time tomorrow to see if this setup works without crashing the live stream. During the first version of this live stream, we had over 38 people watching at that time. And because it broke, it severely affected the performance of this version of the live stream. I guess that bothered me because it was like, wow, this was going to be a great live stream, with lots of people engaging, and it turned out, to kind of go sideways. But we're going to keep trying to improve the quality of the live stream. We're going to keep trying to improve the quality of the live stream. I want to give you guys the very best. I want to give you guys the best information. I want to give you guys the best presentation. I want to give you guys, I want to make it as entertaining as possible. Having you guys being able to talk and let me know your thoughts on these stories is a major part of the entire thing. And I want you all to be a part of it. All right. So I'm going to be dipping out. All right, but let me take the last couple of comments in the chat. Thanks, bro, Canary King. I appreciate you, and thank you for coming on. Canary King is responsible for me going live every day. He is, and I appreciate the push that you gave to make me do this. All right, so I appreciate you, brother. Your underwear, make sure your underwear is on and clean. Yeah, I am a neat freak. I am a neat freak. I want my undies to be clean, and I am a neat freak. All right, Intergalactic Wrangler says, stay safe, everyone. Thank you so much. We're going to be back same time tomorrow. You guys pray for me, pray for the setup. This is a lot, but I do appreciate the the support that you guys give by watching and by engaging. It means a lot to me. If you guys weren't doing this, maybe I would basically rethink going live and stick to posting recorded versions of the content. But the reason why the lives are so important to me is that it provides that background that holds me accountable. So you guys see these videos where someone is saying something, telling the audience or their audience something that they believe is true with zero pushback. I get the pushback in real time. Like Canary King pushes back in real time. Intergalactic Wrangler, maybe one day I'll say something and there'll be pushback in real time. Pushback is allowed. And I learn, I become better, everyone becomes better, and we can engage in healthy debate. All right? There's no rage baiting. There's no upsetting everyone in order to get clicks. We're just having a decent conversation like people used to do when they disagreed about things. I remember days in elementary school, I would fight all the way from school back home with my friends. We would argue about our favorite show, our favorite characters. We would disagree about everything. And you know what? We'll get to the entrance of our apartments and say, see you tomorrow. It wasn't an existential crisis to disagree with someone or not to see the same thing with someone else. And I want us to be able to build that in this community. I hope you will help out to make it happen. Don't forget, share the video, even if the person you share it to might be upset. Share the video, like the video. And if you haven't, subscribe and help us hit our 20,000 subscriber mark. And then also consider supporting us financially with donations or by joining the membership. I would love to see you guys more in the membership so that we can have more call-ins. All right, so I'm going to be dipping out. I have a meeting in a few minutes, and I'll see you tomorrow, same time tomorrow. Thank you so much for being a part of this. I love you guys, and I'll see you soon. Bye. See you later.